Commander Jin Park stood in the council chamber and watched 12 species argue about their survival. The Galactic Coalition had existed for 3,000 years, but none of those years had prepared them for the Dominion. The holographic display showed another world burning. That made 17 colonies destroyed in just 4 months. "We must negotiate," insisted council member, his blue scales shimmering under the chamber lights. "That can be reasoned with." Park wanted to laugh at that, but his military training kept his face neutral. He had seen the footage from the colony worlds. They did not negotiate. They conquered, enslaved, or destroyed. There was no middle ground with them. "Negotiation failed," Park said, stepping forward. 3 times we sent diplomats. 3 times they sent back bodies. They have made their intentions clear. They want total surrender within 30 galactic cycles, or they will burn every coalition world. The chamber fell silent. 30 cycles was barely 3 months in Earth time, though Park only knew that from ancient records. Earth itself was a myth, a story told in old databases that most species dismissed as fiction. According to legend, Earth was that had spawned a warrior race called humans, but the coordinates in those old files led to empty space. Most scholars believed Earth had never existed at all. Park had read those files countless times during his academy years. Something about the human legends fascinated him. They spoke of a species that refused to quit, that turned disadvantages into weapons, that protected the weak even at great cost to themselves. Children's stories, his instructors had said, pretty tales with no basis in reality. "Commander Park," the head counselor said, her voice tired, "what does the military recommend?" Park pulled up tactical displays. Red markers showed positions. Blue markers showed coalition forces. There was far too much red. "We need allies, new technology, something to change the balance of power. Without that, we lose this war in less than a year." "Where do we find such allies?" demanded. "Every spacefaring species is already part of the coalition or the Dominion. There is no one else." That was when the chamber doors opened. A junior technician rushed in, violating every protocol. Guards moved to intercept her, but she held up a data chip. "Council, forgive the intrusion. We found something in the archives from the world before they destroyed it." The head counselor gestured for the technician to approach. Park watched as she inserted the chip into the main console. Old text appeared on the displays, written in a dozen languages. Park's translator struggled with some of the ancient dialects. "This is a research file," the technician explained. "They were historians. They spent centuries collecting old records from dead civilizations. This file references Earth." That word sent a murmur through the chamber. Earth, the fairy tale planet. Park felt his pulse quicken. The display showed coordinates, stellar charts, references to a yellow star system with 9 planets, one of them covered in water and teeming with aggressive life forms. The file described massive defense networks and weapons capable of cracking moons. It spoke of humans who had fought wars among themselves for thousands of years before reaching space. "This is ancient propaganda," said dismissively. "Earth is a myth. These humans never existed." But Park was reading deeper into the file. There were technical specifications here, brief but detailed. Descriptions of human ships that could cross star systems in days rather than weeks. Weapons that fired solid projectiles at impossible speeds. Something called nuclear fusion that could power cities or destroy them. "What if it's real?" Park said quietly. The chamber turned to look at him. He pointed at the coordinates. "What if Earth exists and we simply never found it because they don't want to be found? What if humans are out there watching and waiting?" "That's fantasy," another council member said. "We've surveyed that region of space. There's nothing there." Park pulled up the survey data. It was 200 years old. Standard procedure called for resurveying every 50 years, but that sector was considered empty space. No one had bothered to check again. "We assumed nothing was there, but what if we were wrong? What if they have technology that hides them from our sensors?" The head counselor studied the data for a long moment. Park could see her weighing options. The coalition was desperate. They were losing worlds every week. Traditional tactics had failed. Diplomacy had failed. They needed something unexpected, something they had not planned for. "Commander Park," she finally said, "take a scout ship. Go to these coordinates. If Earth exists, if these humans are real, we need their help. If it's empty space, you'll return and we'll focus on more realistic options." Park bowed. "Understood, counselor. I'll leave within the hour." "Take volunteers only," she added. This mission is dangerous. If Earth is real and they're hostile, you may not return. If it's a trap, the same applies. Park selected his crew carefully. 5 officers who had all lost worlds to the 5 people who understood what was at stake. They departed from the Coalition station aboard a small science vessel, fast and equipped with advanced sensors but lightly armed. If they found trouble, running was their only option. The journey took 6 days. Park spent most of that time reading everything the database had about Earth. The legends painted humans as contradictions. They were described as both peaceful and violent, generous and territorial, creative and destructive. They formed deep bonds with their own kind, but had spent killing each other over trivial differences. They had nearly destroyed themselves with weapons before finally reaching space. On the 6th day, they arrived at the coordinates. Park's sensor officer gasped. "Commander, I'm reading gravity wells, multiple large masses. A star system exists here, but our sensors are having trouble getting clear readings." Park leaned forward in his chair. "Why?" "Unknown. It's like there's interference, but natural interference. Or maybe artificial designed to look natural. I can't tell." They moved closer. The interference faded as they crossed some invisible threshold. Suddenly, the sensors came alive with data. 9 planets orbited a yellow star. The 3rd planet was blue and green and white, covered in vast oceans and swirling clouds. Park's hands gripped his chair arms. "Life signs?" he asked. "Billions," the sensor officer whispered. "Massive cities, orbital stations, energy readings off the scale. Commander, there are structures on their moon, defense platforms in orbit. I'm detecting at least 20 large vessels that could be warships." Park stared at the planet on the main screen. Earth. It was real. Humans were real, and they had been hiding here all along, building and watching while the galaxy burned around them. "Open a channel," Park ordered. "All frequencies, let's see if they want to talk." Before his communications officer could comply, every console on the ship lit up. An incoming transmission, powerful enough to override their systems. A voice spoke in perfect galactic standard, calm and professional. "Unknown vessel, you have entered Earth's defensive perimeter. Cut your engines and identify yourself immediately. You have 30 seconds to comply." Park looked at his crew. They had found Earth. Now came the hard part. Would the humans help them, or had they hidden from the galaxy for good reason? He took a breath and opened the channel. "This is Commander Jin Park of the Galactic Coalition. We come in peace, and we desperately need your help." The line went silent for a moment. Then the voice returned, and Park thought he heard surprise in it. "Coalition, we've been monitoring your situation with the standby for escort. You're going to want to see this." 3 ships appeared on Park's sensors, sleek vessels that moved with precision no Coalition ship could match. They formed an escort pattern around his small science vessel and guided him toward the blue planet. Park watched Earth grow larger on his screen and felt his heart race. He was seeing a world that most of the galaxy considered fiction. "You're cleared to dock with UESS Horizon," the voice said over the channel. "Our shuttle will meet you in the main bay. Welcome to Earth's space, Commander Park." The Horizon was massive, easily twice the size of a Coalition battlecruiser. Its hull was dark gray with strange markings in a language Park's translator identified as English. Weapons ports lined the ship's exterior, though most were currently closed. As Park's vessel approached, a bay door opened and lights guided them inside. The docking process was smooth. When Park and his crew stepped out of their ship, they found themselves in a hangar that could have held 10 vessels their size. Human crew members worked at various stations, all wearing dark blue uniforms. They glanced at Park and his team with curiosity but no fear. Park noticed that most of them were young, perhaps in their 20s or 30s in human years. A tall human man approached, his uniform marked with insignia Park didn't recognize. He had brown hair starting to gray at the temples and calm gray eyes. "Commander Park, I'm Captain Grant. Welcome aboard the Horizon. If you and your crew will follow me, Admiral Cole is waiting to speak with you." Park nodded and gestured for his crew to stay with the ship. He followed Grant through corridors that were clean and well lit. The ship hummed with power, and Park could feel the vibration of massive engines somewhere below. Everything about the Horizon spoke of advanced engineering and military discipline. They entered a conference room where a woman in her 50s waited. She had short dark hair and sharp brown eyes that studied Park carefully. "Commander Park, I'm Admiral Cole. Please sit." Park sat across from her. Grant took a position standing near the door. Park noticed security cameras in the corners and wondered how many weapons were trained on him right now. Admiral, I must ask, why has Earth remained hidden? The Coalition could have used your help years ago. Cole leaned back in her chair. 200 years ago, we detected the first alien signals, radio waves from your space. We were excited, scared, curious. We had just developed our first faster-than-light drives. We were ready to meet our neighbors. She paused. Then we listened to what you were saying. What do you mean? We heard your news broadcasts, your political debates, your wars. Cole pulled up a holographic display showing old Coalition conflicts. In the 200 years we've been watching, we've seen 17 major wars in Coalition space. Thousands of minor conflicts, species enslaving each other, committing genocide, destroying entire worlds over resources or religion or pride. Park felt shame burn in his chest. She was right, the Coalition's history was not peaceful, so you hid from us. We debated, Grant said from his position by the door. Some wanted to reveal ourselves immediately, others argued for caution. In the end, caution won. We built our defenses, developed our technology, and watched. We learned your languages, studied your cultures, monitored your development. You spied on us, Park said. Yes, Cole admitted without hesitation. We did, because we saw what happened to young species that announced themselves too early. They got conquered or absorbed or destroyed. Earth had just barely survived our own self-destructive phase. We weren't ready to risk extinction by revealing ourselves to a galaxy that solved problems with violence. Park understood, even if he didn't like it. But you're revealing yourselves now? Why? Cole switched the display to show attacks. Park watched his own worlds burn again. Because they are different. We've seen empires rise and fall. We've watched wars come and go. But they don't want conquest. They want extinction. If they win, they won't just enslave the Coalition species. They'll hunt them to extinction and take everything. We've intercepted their communications. We know their plans. So you'll help us? That's not a simple question, Commander. Cole stood and walked to the window. Park could see Earth below, blue and beautiful. Our government is debating right now. Earth is safe behind our defenses. We could sit this out, wait for the war to end, then deal with whoever wins. Some of our leaders favor that approach. Park felt hope dying in his chest. He had come so far, found the mythical Earth, only to be turned away. Admiral, please, billions will die if the win. Entire species will be wiped out. I know, Cole said quietly. That's why others in our government want to intervene. We have the technology to help. We have the ships. We could change the balance of this war. She turned to face him. But Earth has a population of 12 billion. If we reveal ourselves and join this war, we become targets. They will come for us. Our people will die. Is that a fair trade? Our lives for yours. Park met her eyes. No, it's not fair, but it's right. Cole studied him for a long moment. Captain Grant shares your view, so do I, but we're military. The civilian government makes the final decision. She checked a display on her wrist. They're voting now. We should have an answer within the hour. The wait was torture. Park sat in the conference room while Grant brought him water and something humans called coffee. It was bitter but energizing. Park sipped it and tried not to think about what would happen if Earth refused to help. The Coalition would fall. His people would die. Everything would end. Finally, Cole returned. Her expression was neutral, giving nothing away. She sat down across from Park and folded her hands on the table. The vote was close, very close, but the intervention faction won by a narrow margin. Earth will help the Coalition. Park felt relief flood through him. Thank you so much. Don't thank us yet, Cole said. We're not committing our full fleet, not yet. We're sending 3 ships as observers and advisors, the Horizon, the Defiant, and the Resolute. We'll come to Coalition space, assess the situation, and provide what support we can. If the situation changes, we'll. 3 ships. Park had hoped for more, but 3 human vessels were better than nothing. When can we leave? Tomorrow, our ships need final preparations. We've never operated this far from Earth before. Cole stood and offered her hand. Park took it, feeling the firm grip. Commander, I need you to understand something. We're not saviors. We're not heroes. We're just people trying to do the right thing. We might not be enough to win this war. You're more than we had yesterday, Park said. That's enough for now. That night, Park was given quarters on the horizon. He couldn't sleep, so he stood at the window and watched Earth rotate below. Somewhere down there, 12 billion humans lived their lives, unaware that their world was about to reveal itself to the galaxy. Unaware that their military was preparing to fight in a war light years away. Grant found him there. The captain stood beside him and looked at Earth with obvious affection. Beautiful, isn't she? I was born on that world, grew up in a place called California, never thought I'd be leaving to fight aliens. Are you afraid? Park asked. Grant considered the question. Yes, but fear is natural, it keeps us sharp. What matters is what we do despite the fear. He glanced at Park. Your people have been fighting for months. You could have surrendered, run, given up, but you kept fighting. That takes courage. Or desperation. Sometimes they're the same thing. Grant checked his display. We launch in 8 hours. Get some sleep, Commander. Tomorrow the galaxy discovers that Earth is real. Park returned to his quarters but still couldn't sleep. Instead, he sent a message back to Coalition space, encrypted and marked urgent. Earth exists. Humans are real. They're coming to help. Hold on just a little longer. 8 hours later, Park stood on the Horizon's bridge as 3 massive human warships prepared to leave their home system. Earth Control gave them clearance. The engines hummed with power. Grant gave the order and the ships jumped to faster-than-light speed. Park watched Earth disappear from the screens. They were committed now. 3 human ships were heading to Coalition space to face an enemy that had crushed 17 worlds. He prayed it would be enough. What Park didn't know was that spies had detected the energy signatures. They had monitored the 3 unknown ships leaving the hidden system. They had sent reports back to their commanders. And those commanders were laughing. 3 ships from an unknown species that had crushed entire fleets. These newcomers, whoever they were, would learn the price of interfering in business. Commander, leader of the advance fleet, studied the reports and dismissed them with contempt. Primitives with stolen ships, he decided, that would destroy them as a lesson to the Coalition. 3 ships would not change the outcome of this war. Nothing would. The Coalition Council chamber filled with noise as Captain Grant finished his presentation. He stood calmly at the center while alien leaders argued and shouted. Admiral Cole stood beside him, her face showing no emotion. Park watched from his position near the back and felt frustration building in his chest. 3 ships, council member said with contempt. You bring 3 ships and expect us to believe you can help. They have hundreds of vessels. This is insulting. Grant didn't rise to the bait. We're not claiming 3 ships will win the war. We're offering our technology, our tactics, and our experience. We've studied them for months. We know their weaknesses. Then share this knowledge, another council member demanded. Give us your weapons technology. Let us build our own versions of your ships. Cole stepped forward. That would take years. You don't have years. You have weeks, maybe months, before they launch their final assault. Our ships are here now. Use them. The head counselor raised her hand for silence. The human offer is noted. We will discuss this and vote. For now, the 3 Earth vessels will join our defensive fleet at the Terran Junction. That's our main supply route. If you can protect that, you'll prove your worth. Grant bowed slightly. Understood, counselor. We'll head there immediately. Park followed Grant and Cole out of the chamber. In the corridor, Park apologized. I'm sorry. The council is desperate and afraid. They're taking it out on you. We expected skepticism, Cole said. We're the new variable in an old equation. No one likes variables. She checked her data pad. The Terran Junction is 3 days away. We should get moving. Park wanted to go with them, but his orders kept him at Coalition headquarters. He watched the 3 human ships depart and hoped the council would come to their senses before it was too late. They wouldn't wait for politics to sort themselves out. 2 days later, the call came. A fleet had attacked a Coalition supply convoy near the Terran Junction. 12 Coalition ships were engaged with 30 warships. They were losing badly. Park's blood ran cold when he saw his mentor's ship, the Swift Wing, on the casualty list. He immediately requested permission to take a fast courier to the battle site. The head counselor approved, perhaps feeling guilty about how they had treated the humans. Park made the jump in record time, arriving at the Terran Junction to find chaos. Coalition ships limped through space, hulls breached and engines failing. Vessels circled them like predators, firing at will. The Swift Wing was tumbling through space, life support failing. Park's sensors showed minimal life signs aboard. Then he saw the 3 Earth ships holding position between the Coalition vessels and the fleet. They looked tiny compared to the massive battle cruisers. Park opened a channel to the horizon. Captain Grant, this is Commander Park. What's your status? Grant's voice came back calm despite the chaos around them. We've been holding position for the last hour. The commander has been demanding our surrender. We've been politely declining. Politely declining? Park watched another ship fire on a coalition vessel. Captain, you're outnumbered 10-1. Fall back before they destroy you too. Negative, Commander. We didn't come all this way to run at the first sign of trouble. Park switched to the command frequency. He heard Commander's voice dripping with contempt. Unknown vessels, this is your final warning. Surrender now or be destroyed. You have 10 seconds to comply. This is Captain Grant of Earth, Grant replied. We've heard your warning. Now hear ours. Cease your attack on coalition vessels immediately. Withdraw your fleet beyond the neutral zone. You have 1 minute to begin complying. Laughed the sound harsh over the speakers. You dare threaten us? You bring 3 tiny ships against our armada and make demands? Your species must have a death wish. Very well, we'll grant it. All units destroy the Earth vessels, make an example of them. Park watched in horror as the fleet turned toward the human ships. Energy beams and missiles launched from 30 vessels, all converging on 3 targets. Park wanted to look away but forced himself to watch. Grant and Cole didn't deserve to die alone. But something impossible happened. The weapons struck the human ships and simply stopped. Blue energy shields flared to life around the horizon, defiant and resolute. The shields absorbed the weapons like they were nothing more than harsh light. Not a single hit penetrated. What? Confusion was clear over the channel. How? Concentrate fire on the lead vessel, maximum power. The fleet focused all weapons on the horizon. The space around the ship lit up like a star going nova. Park's sensors went crazy trying to measure the energy being released. No shield should withstand that much firepower. But when the light faded, the horizon sat there undamaged. The blue shields flickered slightly, then stabilized. Our turn, Grant said quietly. The 3 human ships moved. Park had never seen vessels accelerate so fast. They crossed the distance to the fleet in seconds, weaving between the larger ships with impossible agility. The horizon fired something from its main guns. Park's sensors identified them as solid projectiles, metal rods accelerated to tremendous speeds. The human weapons punched through a battle cruiser's shields like they weren't even there, tearing holes in the hull. The ship went dark, its engines failing. The Defiant launched smaller craft, fighters that moved even faster than the main ships. They swarmed around vessels, targeting weapons ports and engines with surgical precision. The Resolute hung back and deployed some kind of electronic warfare. Ships suddenly lost targeting locks. Their weapons fired wildly, hitting nothing but empty space or occasionally their own allies. Park watched in amazement as the battle turned. They had numbers and size, but the humans had speed, precision, and technology that couldn't match. A human fighter swooped past Park's courier, so close he could see the pilot inside. The fighter disabled a destroyer's engines with 2 quick shots, then moved on to the next target. In less than 10 minutes, 17 ships drifted helplessly in space, their systems disabled but their crews alive. The remaining 13 vessels broke formation and ran. His voice came over the channel, no longer contemptuous but filled with shock. Retreat! All ships retreat immediately. We cannot fight them. Grant didn't pursue. Instead, the human ships moved to assist the damaged coalition vessels. Commander Park, we're seeing life signs on the Swift Wing. Permission to send rescue teams. Park could barely speak. He had just watched 3 ships defeat a fleet 10 times their size with almost casual ease. Permission granted. Captain, how did you do that? We didn't do anything special, Commander. We just used what Earth has been developing for 2 centuries. These are standard defensive vessels for us. Grant paused. They are tough, but they rely on brute force. They didn't expect precision and tactics. That made them predictable. Human rescue teams swarmed over the coalition ships, pulling survivors from damaged sections and providing medical care. Park docked with the Swift Wing and found his mentor, Captain, being treated by a human medic. The old warrior looked at Park with wide eyes. Did you see that? Did you see what they did? I saw, Park said quietly. He helped to his feet and guided him toward the airlock. Around them, coalition crews stared at the human vessels with a mixture of awe and fear. These were the ships they had dismissed as worthless just days ago. These were the people had insulted in the council chamber. Grant contacted Park again. Commander, you should get your people back to coalition headquarters. We're going to remain here and secure the area. I think the council needs to see footage of this engagement. Park understood. The council had doubted. They had dismissed Earth's offer. Now they needed to see what humans could do. Sending you the tactical recordings now, Captain, and Grant, thank you. You saved a lot of lives today. That's why we're here, Commander. Park returned to Coalition headquarters with the survivors and the battle footage. He called for an emergency council session and played the recordings without commentary. The council chamber fell silent as they watched 3 human ships dismantle a fleet. When it ended, no one spoke for a long moment. Finally, the head counselor cleared her throat. "How many ships does Earth have?" Park checked the data Grant had provided. In their home system, at least 200 warships of various sizes. What we saw today were mid-range vessels. They have larger ones. Who had been so dismissive before stared at the frozen image of the horizon. "We need to formally request a full alliance, immediately." The council voted. For once it was unanimous. Earth would be offered full membership in the coalition and a request for military alliance. But as Park transmitted the offer to Grant, he received troubling intelligence from space. Long-range scouts reported massive fleet movements. They were gathering their forces, not dozens of ships, hundreds. Had reported the defeat to High Command, and the High Command had been furious. They saw the loss as humiliation. They saw Earth as a threat that needed to be crushed. Orders went out across the Dominion. Gather the fleet, prepare for war, find this Earth and destroy it. Show the galaxy what happens to those who defy the... Park read the intelligence reports and felt cold fear settle in his stomach. The humans had won one battle, but now they had drawn the attention of the entire Dominion. 200 human warships against hundreds of vessels. And Earth, that beautiful blue world, sitting vulnerable in space while they prepared to attack it. He sent an urgent message to Admiral Cole. "They are coming for you. Prepare your defenses. An entire empire is mobilizing for war." Commander stood before the High Command and delivered his report. The chamber was dark, lit only by red emergency lighting that the preferred. 7 members of the High Command sat in elevated positions, looking down at him with glowing yellow eyes. Kept his head bowed and his voice steady as he described the defeat. "Impossible," High Commander growled when finished. 3 primitive ships cannot defeat 30 of our vessels. You failed because of incompetence, not because of enemy strength." "I reviewed the battle footage personally," said carefully. "Their technology exceeds our own. Their shields absorbed our weapons. Their precision strikes disabled our ships without destroying them. They fought with a sophistication we have never encountered." "Then we will crush them with numbers," declared. He turned to the other members. "Send word to all battle groups. Gather the armada, 200 ships. We will go to this Earth and burn it from space. The humans and the coalition will learn what happens when insects challenge the Dominion." Bowed and retreated. He returned to his ship with new orders. Within days, the largest fleet ever assembled began moving toward coalition space. They would find Earth, they would destroy it, and then the coalition would have no hope left. Admiral Cole received Park's warning on the bridge of the horizon. She read it twice, then called a meeting with Captain Grant and the commanders of the Defiant and Resolute. They gathered in the briefing room, faces grim. 200 ships, Grant said, studying the intelligence data. "That's their entire main battle fleet. They're not playing around anymore." "Can we hold them?" asked Commander Lisa Harper of the Defiant. She was younger than Cole, in her 30s, with sharp features and intense green eyes. Cole pulled up Earth's defensive network on the display. "Our orbital platforms can handle heavy assault. The moon bases add significant firepower. We have automated defense satellites throughout the system, and we can pull back our fleet from patrol duties. That gives us maybe 60 capital ships plus fighters and support craft." "Against 200, said Commander of the Resolute. He was a veteran older than Grant with gray hair and a face from an accident years ago. "Bad odds." "We've faced worse in simulations," Grant pointed out. "And we have home territory advantage. We know every asteroid, every orbital path, every hiding spot in this system, that will be coming in blind." Cole made her decision. "We fight here. Send recall orders to all ships. I want every vessel back in Sol's system within 48 hours. Alert Earth Command. Activate all defensive protocols. If they want Earth, they'll have to take it from us." The preparations took 2 days. Human warships returned from patrol routes across the solar system. Automated weapons platforms powered up. The moon bases loaded their main guns. Civilian populations on Mars and the orbital colonies were evacuated to emergency shelters deep underground. Everyone knew what was coming. Park arrived on the 3rd day, bringing a dozen coalition ships as support. It wasn't much, but it was all the coalition could spare while defending their own worlds. He docked with the Horizon and found Cole in the command center, coordinating the defense. "Commander Park," she greeted him. "You didn't have to come, your ships are needed elsewhere." "Earth is part of the coalition now," Park said firmly. "We protect our allies. Besides, I wanted to see your defenses firsthand. The Council needs to know what we're working with." Cole showed him the tactical displays. Park's eyes widened as he saw the full scope of Earth's defensive network. Hidden platforms in the asteroid belt, weapons stations on the moons of Jupiter and Saturn, the massive built into Luna's surface, entire squadrons of automated drones ready to swarm any attackers. "You've been preparing for invasion," Park said with understanding. "For 200 years, you've been getting ready for war." "We hoped it would never come," Cole admitted. "But we prepared anyway. That's the human way. Hope for peace, prepare for war." On the fourth day, they arrived. Park was on the Horizon's bridge when the sensors detected the incoming fleet. 200 massive warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Sol's system. They moved in perfect formation, a wall of gray metal and weapons that stretched across space. Broadcast on all frequencies, his voice was cold and certain. "Humans of Earth, you have interfered in business. You have embarrassed the Dominion. For this crime, your world will burn. We offer one chance at mercy. Surrender now. Give us your technology and your leaders. Serve thee as slaves. Your species will survive, if not your pride." Admiral Cole stood at the center of the Horizon's bridge. She looked out at the fleet and felt no fear, only determination. She opened a channel back to, "This is Admiral Cole of Earth Defense Command. We've received your offer and we reject it. You've come to our home looking for an easy target. You're about to learn that Earth is anything but easy." "Then you choose extinction," said. "So be it. All ships advance, destroy their orbital defenses, ignore their ships for now. We'll kill the planet itself." The fleet moved forward. Park gripped his console as he watched them come. Even knowing Earth's defenses, 200 ships was an overwhelming force. They were massive vessels, each one bristling with weapons. Their shields glowed red as they prepared for battle. "Let them come closer," Cole said calmly. "We want them fully committed." They crossed the orbit of Pluto, then Neptune. They were accelerating now, confident in their numbers, probably expected the humans to scatter and run. Instead, the 20 human warships near Earth held position, not retreating an inch. "Now," Cole ordered. Space exploded with light. The hidden defense platforms activated. Park watched in awe as hundreds of weapons stations revealed themselves. They had been disguised as asteroids, as dead satellites, as chunks of space debris. Now they opened fire simultaneously. The fleet staggered under the assault. Long-range missiles launched from positions near Mars, crossing the distance in minutes. Rounds fired from the moon, solid metal moving at tremendous speeds. Energy beams from orbital platforms around Earth itself joined the attack. The shields held, but barely. Several ships took critical hits and fell back. "Deploy the drones," Cole commanded. Thousands of automated fighters swarmed out of hidden bays. They were small, fast, and expendable. They surrounded the ships like angry insects, targeting weak points in the shields and firing precisely. The returned fire destroying hundreds of drones. But for every one destroyed, 2 more took its place. Lieutenant Maya Foster led a squadron of human fighters into the chaos. She was 26 years old, one of Earth's best pilots, and she flew with a combination of skill and instinct that bordered on supernatural. Her squadron wove between ships, targeting their weapons arrays. "This is Shadow Leader. All wings focus on the command ships. Take out their coordination and they'll fall apart." Her squadron dove on a command vessel the same ship commanded. They fired precision strikes at the communication arrays. The ship's shields absorbed most of the hits, but Maya adjusted her angle and fired again. This time, her shots penetrated and destroyed 3 antenna arrays. Ship went partially dark. On the horizon, Cole coordinated the human fleet. Commander took the Resolute deep into the formation, using electronic warfare to blind their sensors. Commander Harper led the Defiant in close-range combat, her ship's heavy guns tearing through shields. Captain Grant held the Horizon at the center, acting as command and control for all Earth forces. Park watched the battle unfold with growing amazement. They had numbers, but they were fighting blind. Their sensors couldn't track all the threats. Their targeting systems got confused by the electronic warfare. Their ships couldn't coordinate without functional communications. What should have been an overwhelming assault became a confused brawl where Earth's precision and tactics made up for their smaller numbers. An hour into the battle, they had lost 40 ships, not destroyed but disabled and drifting. Their crews were alive, but their vessels were combat ineffective. Earth had lost perhaps 100 drones and taken moderate damage to 3 warships. No human casualties yet. Stared at his displays in disbelief. This wasn't how the battle was supposed to go. They should have crushed Earth in the first hour. Instead, they were being picked apart. He opened a channel to all ships. Break formation, individual ships advance on Earth directly. They can't stop us all. But breaking formation was exactly what Cole wanted. The ships scattered, each one racing toward Earth independently. They no longer covered each other. They no longer coordinated their shields. They were targets. All ships weapons free, Cole ordered. Take them apart. The human fleet moved like a pack of wolves. They isolated individual ships and disabled them with overwhelming firepower. Maya's squadron destroyed engine sections. Commander Harper's heavy guns knocked out weapon systems. Commander's electronic warfare blinded sensors. And through it all, the automated defense network kept firing, a constant rain of death from every angle. 3 hours into the battle had lost 90 ships. His own vessel was badly damaged, shields failing, weapons offline. He watched another of his battlecruisers go dark and finally admitted the truth. They couldn't win. Not here, not against these humans and their home territory advantage. All ships, he said, his voice defeated. Retreat, fall back beyond the system edge. We cannot defeat them here. The remaining ships disengaged and ran. The human fleet let them go, not pursuing beyond Luna's orbit. Cole stood on the bridge and watched the flee. Around her, the crew began to cheer. They had defended Earth against impossible odds. But Cole didn't celebrate. She pulled up casualty reports. 3 human warships heavily damaged, 17 crew members injured, 2 dead. The orbital defense network had taken significant damage. Many platforms would need weeks to repair, and they still had over 100 functional ships. They could regroup and attack again. Park approached her, his face showing respect. Admiral, that was the most impressive defensive battle I've ever witnessed. You stopped them cold. For now, Cole said quietly. She looked at Earth on the main screen, beautiful and blue and safe. But they'll be back, and next time they won't underestimate us. Commander limped back to space with barely 100 ships all damaged. The High Command was waiting. He expected execution, but instead they gave him intelligence data captured from disabled human vessels. The reports showed something that changed everything. Earth's defense network was powerful, but it was designed for defense only. The humans had fewer than 100 ships capable of offensive operations outside their home system. We attacked them where they were strongest, High Commander said, studying the data. That was foolish. Instead, we will force them to come to us. We will threaten the coalition worlds until the humans leave their fortress. Then we will destroy them in open space where their defenses cannot help them. Saw the logic, and if they refuse to leave Earth, then we burn the coalition to ash and rule over the remains. Either way, we win. The new strategy began immediately. Their remaining fleets attacked coalition colonies, focusing on civilian targets. They broadcast messages making their intentions clear. Every day the humans stayed hidden, another world would burn. The coalition begged Earth for help. Park carried the message personally to Admiral Cole. They met in the Horizon's briefing room. Park looked exhausted, his uniform dirty from rescue operations on the latest destroyed world. They killed 3 million civilians on Terrace 5, bombed the cities from orbit, left a message saying tomorrow it would be 6 million on another world. They won't stop until you come out and fight them. Cole studied the tactical map. They had positioned their fleets near coalition worlds, using civilians as shields. If Earth attacked, they could retreat and destroy the colonies before help arrived. It was a brutal strategy, but effective. We need to take the fight to them, end this permanently. "The is heavily defended," Captain Grant said. He pulled up intelligence on Prime. 400 ships in their defense fleet, orbital weapons platforms, surface-based missile sites. It would take our entire offensive fleet to have a chance. Then we use our entire fleet, Cole decided. But we don't attack there directly. We liberate the colonies they've captured along the way. Show that we're not going to play their game. We'll free their slaves and dismantle their empire piece by piece. Park felt hope stir in his chest. The coalition can provide support, 200 ships to join your attack. That gives us 300 total, Commander Harper calculated. Against potentially 400 ships at there, plus who knows how many scattered across their territory. Then we make sure they can't gather those scattered ships, Cole said. She began outlining a strategy: hit multiple targets simultaneously, force them to divide their forces, liberate slave worlds and turn them into allies, use speed and surprise rather than brute force. The combined Earth Coalition fleet assembled near the border of space. Park had been given joint command alongside Cole, a symbolic gesture showing the alliance between their peoples. He stood on the Horizon's bridge and watched the fleet form up. 50 human warships, including the Horizon, Defiant, and Resolute, 200 coalition vessels of various sizes, support ships, medical frigates, supply carriers. This is the largest Allied fleet in galactic history, Park said quietly. Whatever happens, we've already achieved something remarkable. Cole nodded. Now let's make sure it counts. They jumped into space and immediately split into 3 groups. One fleet under Commander Harper headed for the slave colonies in the northern sector. Another under Commander targeted the mining operations in the asteroid fields. The main fleet under Cole and Park drove straight toward Prime, the heart of the Dominion. They weren't ready for the multi-pronged assault. Their forces were spread too thin, trying to threaten coalition worlds. Harper's fleet liberated 6 slave colonies in 4 days, destroying the occupation forces and arming the freed populations. His group seized control of the mining operations and cut off this resource supply lines. And the main fleet pushed deeper into space, growing stronger as liberated species joined the cause. By the time they reached Prime, the main fleet had grown to 400 ships. Freed species had contributed vessels, troops, and intelligence about defenses. They tried to recall their scattered forces, but human electronic warfare disrupted their communications. The defense fleet at Prime found itself isolated with no reinforcements coming. Admiral Cole broadcast a message to Prime from the Horizon. This is Admiral Cole of Earth and Commander Jin Park of the Coalition. We're here to end this war. The Dominion has committed genocide, enslaved innocent species, and threatened the entire galaxy. Your expansion ends today. You can surrender peacefully and face trial for your crimes, or you can fight and be destroyed. Choose quickly. The response came from High Commander himself. His voice was filled with rage. You dare come to you dare threaten us? We have conquered 100 worlds. We will not surrender to inferiors. Then we'll do this the hard way, Cole said. She looked at Park. Ready. Park nodded. For all the worlds they destroyed, for all the lives they took, let's finish this. The battle for Prime began. The defense fleet moved to engage, their 400 ships forming a wall between the Allied fleet and their. The orbital defenses powered up, massive weapons that could crack moons. Surface installations launched missiles by the thousands. But the Allied fleet had learned from Earth's defensive battle. They didn't fight fair. They used tactics they had never encountered. Human fighters led by Lieutenant Maya Foster struck the orbital platforms first, destroying their targeting systems. Commander's electronic warfare turned their own surface missiles against them. Coalition ships drew the defense fleet's attention while human vessels slipped past and disabled key installations. The battle lasted for 6 hours. It was brutal and costly. The Allied fleet lost 40 ships, including 3 human vessels. Hundreds of crew members died on both sides, but slowly, methodically, the Allied forces dismantled the defenses. Maya's squadron destroyed the last orbital platform. Commander Harper's heavy guns cracked the shields on the command station, and Captain Grant led a boarding party that captured High Commander alive. When the fighting stopped, Prime's defenses lay in ruins. The defense fleet was scattered or destroyed. The itself was intact but helpless. Cole broadcast a message to the people. This war is over. The High Command has been captured. Your military has been defeated. You have a choice now. Accept peace and join the galactic community as equals, or continue fighting and face total destruction. We prefer peace, but the choice is yours. For 3 days, they debated. Their government was in chaos. Some wanted to fight to the last. Others saw the reality of their situation. Finally, a new council formed, led by civilians rather than military commanders. They contacted Cole and Park with a surrender offer. The peace talks took 2 weeks. The terms were clear. They would free all slaves. They would dismantle their military to defense-only forces. They would stand trial for war crimes at a galactic tribunal. They would pay reparations to the species they had harmed. In exchange, they would be allowed to keep there and join the coalition as a probationary member. Park stood in the council chamber as they signed the treaty. High Commander was brought in chains to face charges of genocide. The freed slaves watched with tears in their eyes. The coalition representatives witnessed history being made. and Cole stood beside Park, exhausted but satisfied. "We did it," Park said quietly. "We actually did it." "Not just us," Cole replied. She gestured to the assembled species. "All of us together, that's the point. Alone, Earth couldn't have won this. Alone, the coalition couldn't have survived, but together we were strong enough to end an empire." The aftermath took months to sort out. War crimes trials proceeded slowly but fairly. Officers faced justice. Some were imprisoned. Others, cooperated and received lighter sentences. The people struggled with their new reality, but gradually they began to adapt. Freed slave species returned to their worlds or stayed in coalition space as citizens. Earth became a full member of the Galactic Coalition. Human technology was shared with allied species, though carefully and slowly. Earth's Defense Academy opened its doors to students from across the galaxy, teaching the tactics and strategies that had defeated the. Captain Grant became an instructor there. Commander Harper took command of the new Joint Defense Fleet. Commander retired to write a history of the war. Park received a promotion to Admiral and was given command of the Coalition's exploration fleet. His first mission was to map unknown regions of space, searching for other isolated species that might need help. He took the Swift Wing, fully repaired, and a crew that included both Coalition and human members. Before he left, he visited Earth one final time. Admiral Cole, now retired, met him at a cafe in San Francisco. They sat overlooking the bay and watched ships come and go from the orbital elevator. "Strange how things work out," Cole said. "A year ago, Earth was a myth. Now we're hosting the Coalition Summit and training officers from 20 different species." "Do you regret revealing yourselves?" Park asked. "You were safe in isolation." Cole considered the question. "Safety isn't everything. We could have hidden forever, but what kind of life is that? Living in fear, watching others suffer, doing nothing? No, we made the right choice. It cost us, but it was right." Park raised his glass, to making the right choice even when it's hard. They drank and watched the sunset over Earth. Somewhere above them, the orbital defense network still stood watch. The moon bases still maintained their weapons. Earth would never be defenseless again. But now those defenses protected not just one world, but an entire alliance of species working together. On Prime, former soldiers worked alongside freed slaves to rebuild damaged cities. On liberated colonies, children who had known only occupation played freely for the first time. In the Coalition Council chamber, representatives from 100 worlds debated and argued and slowly built a better future. And in dark space, far from any star, a single monitoring station picked up unusual signals. Something was out there beyond known space. Another unknown civilization, perhaps. Another potential threat or ally. The galaxy was vast and full of mysteries. But now, for the first time in centuries, the known galaxy was at peace. The fairy tale of Earth had become reality. The warships that had entered the fray had proven that courage, technology, and cooperation could overcome even the darkest threats. And as Park's ship jumped to faster-than-light speed, beginning his journey into the unknown, he carried with him the lesson Earth had taught the galaxy. Sometimes the greatest strength comes not from hiding, but from standing together in the light.